What's going on, guys? So we are back with the 1955 Plymouth station wagon V8 318 Magnum swap. On this video, we're going to do a couple upgrades to it with the steering and suspension, and I'm going to show you guys what I have in total in the car. So the breakdown is going to be what I paid for all the parts plus the Dodge Ram minus what I parted out the Dodge Ram for. Let's get into it. My name's Nick. This is part 3 of the Magnum V8 swap on the 1955 Plymouth. So far, I've done a couple things off camera, and I'll show you guys those right now. I went ahead and installed LA chrome valve covers. This is a Magnum engine. You can install LA valve covers on a Magnum engine. Only thing is, the LA only uses 5 bolts, whereas the Magnum uses 10 bolts and a really awesome gasket. It's probably gonna leak, but it's worth it because it looks shiny and fancy. Plus, that's got to be at least 4 horsepower right there. Little 9-inch air filter wasn't enough for this big sucker to breathe. Since we got that Edelbrock, Chinese Edelbrock on there, we got the Edelbrock 650 CFM, and then the headers and duals. We need a big old air cleaner to make it breathe, so I threw that on there. I got a smaller battery to clear the power steering. I drove the car down to Walmart. Yes, I did drive the car. Here's the video right here. So the car runs really good. It's responsive, there's no vibrations. There's a huge problem where everything is just old. The shocks are bad. When I take off, I'm getting wheel hop. It's wavy like an ocean. So on this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do all the suspension, not all the suspension, but we're gonna do all new shocks, and then we're gonna replace all of our tie rod ends on the front, and we're gonna take it for another test spin, do a couple pulls in it, and here's a clip of a baby burnout that I did. The timing was really retarded on it. All right, let's get to work. Okay, so on the rear shocks, I went ahead and replaced those off camera. Here they are, and they are completely shot. So here's one that I pulled. Now watch this. Just goes straight to the ground. Doesn't even come back up at all. I can't even pull it back out. Let me show you what the previous owner installed and I put back on. Okay, so somebody who had the car before us, they put on coilovers over the shock. So I went ahead and ordered some Monroe shocks, and I put the coilovers back on the car. I mean, it's a day and night difference. I mean, it was all over the place. So let me show you all the parts that I have. Obviously, I already replaced the rear shock. I need to do the front shock. Here's the kicker. You can't look up 55 Plymouth shocks and just order them on Rock Auto, AutoZone, O'Reilly. It just doesn't pull up. So what I have is I have a shock that has the same type of mount on it. This is off of a Chevy Astrovan, I think. I was told by guys online that a Chevy Corvette shock will work, but I figured since the Astrovan's a little heavier, this should be a closer match to our wagon. We'll see if that fits. We got all of our tie rod ends. We are going to be putting clamps on the rear. I watched the video by Uncle Tony's Garage. He put clamps on the rear of the leaf springs, and it helps from your leaf spring twisting. So if you take the clamps off of the rear, I'll show you guys that later on. We have our bushings for our leaf springs. I still haven't gotten in the shackle bushings, and then we have a speedometer cable. We're gonna see if that works. That's the factory one for the Plymouth, and then we're gonna change the throttle from a rod to a cable. Let me show you what the play looks like on the wheel. So for bearings, I went ahead and ordered a full power disc brake conversion kit for this car. It comes with the booster, the master cylinder, the hoses, the disc, and the caliper. And it also comes with wheel bearings, so I didn't order wheel bearings for it. But you can see we have a lot of play in our wheel bearing. I mean, there's a lot of play. I went under the car and I checked. I don't see any play in the kingpins or anything. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and grease everything and then install the tie rods. So here's our steering play. I mean, that's bad. I got the weight of the car on that other tire so you can see how loose it is. I'll go ahead and start popping these tie rods off and then show you guys how I'm going to get it close enough to aligned before we take it to the alignment shop. These tires need to be replaced too. All right, so I got my tie rods right here. First issue I'm seeing, well, I bought 2 different brands for the inner and outer, and this outer, or this brand right here, which is the SKP, is super tight. So I mean, I can't even move it at all, which is good. And then it has a really nice rubber boot on it with these rings, so no dirt can get in. This other brand, I don't understand why, but it's also SKP, and look how easily you can move it. I mean, you can move it all around by hand, and look at the rubber boot. It just falls right off. I mean, that's really concerning. And then look, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a big gap. So dirt and debris is just gonna flood into that. I mean, that's unacceptable. It has a grease fitting on it, but that's just unacceptable. I mean, they were cheap. I can't remember. I'll put the price right here. I think I paid maybe 10 bucks a piece for them, but I mean, that's just ridiculous. So I'll throw them on and see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and do the driver's side first. There's a cotter pin right here. Push the cotter pin out, undo the bolt, the nut, and I'm gonna go ahead and take this out as an assembly. Look at the weather, the rubber boot on there, it's all torn apart. But I did grease all of my kingpins. Everything seems tight. So let me go ahead and remove this and I'll show you guys. All right, so I got my cotter pin undone. Bolt was loose. I had to hit it with a torch. It makes those cotter pins come out really easy, especially when they've been on there since 1980. So now I got a pickle fork. I'm gonna stick that in there, hit it with a hammer, pop this sucker loose. All right, so I got it on my vise. Measure from center to center. It's exactly a foot. Right on the center, it's at 12 inches. So what I'm gonna do, I loosen this bolt. I'm gonna take a pipe wrench. I'm going to count the revolutions. So from here around to here is 1, 2, and then whenever I take it, put the new one on, I'll do the same amount of turns and then lock it down. Same thing for this side. Now these old tie rods, they're actually not bad. They're still pretty tight, but obviously the boot on them is all torn up. All right, so now that it's made up, just remove the nuts, stick it in there, tighten it down, put our cotter pins in there. These are way different. So whenever I threaded it on, I was actually sitting at like 13 inches, center to center. So what I did was I screwed it in another couple turns, and I'm almost at 12 inches. All right, hit it with the impact, put the cotter pins in there. I can already tell that it's tighter. I shook it. It already feels 100% better. Since I got this side lifted already, I'm gonna go ahead and do the shock, or attempt to do the shock and see if it'll fit. But check out this top mount. I mean, that's worn, smoothed out. I know for a fact this shock is gonna be complete garbage. I mean, it looks like it'll fit. It looks like I'm probably gonna have to put a spacer. Looks a lot longer, but should be fine. These Astrovan shocks were actually an inch taller than the Corvette shocks, so hopefully it works. If not, I'll throw some washers up on top. The Astrovan shock is installed. What I had to do was I had to remount these 2 bottom holes just to make the bolt hole bigger, but it lined up perfectly. Got the bushings put on there, tightened it until it stopped turning, or until it started turning the shaft. What I think is gonna happen, I'm about to lower it down, pull the car out and turn it around because I don't have enough room on that side. What I'm assuming is probably gonna happen, Not because it's a brand new shock, but I think that this shock is about an inch taller, where it's probably going to raise the front of the car. Now, to get the old shock off, what I did was I ended up cutting the rod and then realizing, oh crap, I can't come up with it. So I put a little booger tack on there because my vice grips kept slipping. Put a booger tack on there, clamped the vice grip on there. That kept it from spinning, and then I was able to undo the top bolt. So let me go ahead and drop the car down and we'll see how bad it is. All right, so it's obviously sitting higher on this side right here that we just did. It's actually not too bad. I can stick 3 fingers in this side. I mean, I can stick more than 4 fingers. So we probably raised the front of the car an inch, which sucks. But eventually what I'm planning on doing is lowering the car. So I'll cut the shock tower. I'm not gonna cut the springs, I'm gonna cut the shock tower and lower the shock tower. Let's go ahead and do the other side tie rod and shock. All right, so now we got 4 new shocks all the way around. All of our wrist pin suspension is now juiced up. Got all 4 of our tie rod ends. Let's check the play. Oh yeah. That's crazy tight. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm sure that steering box is. Yeah, that's tight. So I'm sure the steering box probably needs to be adjusted too. When I look at the car from the front, it's definitely out of alignment. So let's go ahead and take this sucker for a test spin. I can already tell the difference. It just feels like a tank. Before it was all floaty. Oh yeah, that's tight. Yeah, before this thing felt like a sail ship, like a boat or something. Now it feels nice and tight. Is way off. I can't even drive it. This is bad. It's all over. Oh my gosh. Yeah, when I go around that corner, this thing has a mind of its own right now. Alright, so I went ahead and just eyeballed the steering by looking at it and adjusting the tie rods. It's 110 times better now. So now we're going to do a real test drive. Crazy tight now, so probably going about 45. It was towed in, both sides were towed in. So what I did was I looked down the side of the car until I got the wheel where it just eyeballed straight, and it's just about perfect now. All right, so she drives pretty good, runs pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and do the price breakdown right now. So we started out with a 1995 Dodge Ram that we paid 150 bucks for. Intake and distributor was 281, thermostat housing was 13, air cleaner was 28, intake gasket was 36, voltage regulator was 23, carb stugs 5, oil pan gasket 9, oil pickup 22, aluminum radiator 179, and a bunch of other parts that if you need to stop the video to check, go ahead and do that. All of those parts with the truck brought us to a grand total of now we can go ahead and get into the parts sold. So far we have $992 invested in the entire swap.